Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natubu ilayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fahuwal muhtad wa man yudlil falan tajida lahu waliyan murshida. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, for those of us who consider or like to believe that we are lovers of prophets, for those of us who like to believe that we are lovers of prophets, the year 2015 is a very special one. It has been a very unusual year for people who attach a special significance and special love to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, in many ahadith, several versions of this, has said that you have not truly loved me unless you love me more than yourself, more than your family, more than everything else that you possess. So in many ways, a real test of a person's love is when you love. In fact, a test of Iman in some ways is whether you truly love the prophets of your deen or not. So in every tradition of the monotheistic tradition, people have come across who have been deeply in love with their prophets. For those who love their prophets, 2015 has been a very special year because in the year 2015, those Muslims who celebrate the birth of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, celebrate his birth, his life, his seerah, etc. They had two opportunities in 2015. One in the beginning of January and one in the end of December. So because the lunar year is about 11 to 12 days shorter than the solar year, we had this incredible opportunity. You know, people who are alcoholics, they go to this place called Alcoholics Anonymous, and the way you start there is by saying, I'm so and so, I'm an alcoholic. So in the same way I can tell you, I am Muqtedar Khan, I celebrate Mewled. So it is a confession of that sort. So yes, I do. So for me it was a very special year. We got to celebrate the life, the biography, the achievements, the sacrifices, the greatness and the glory of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam twice this year. We should do it all the time. But we are so entangled in these worldly affairs that it is an occasion when we can extract ourselves from the dunya to find time to talk about the deen. But there's something also unusual happening. And one of the most unusual things is that according to some calculations, I didn't do the math myself, so I'm reluctant to quote an accurate figure, but according to some people, it is for the first time that in over 400 years that both Mewled and Christmas have occurred back to back. Today is Christmas and yesterday was Mewled an-Nabi. There are lots of discussions within the Muslim community about Christmas. And oftentimes I find it very disturbing that when Muslims talk about Christmas, they talk about it in a very condescending fashion. Often they will say, oh, it's the pagan festival. Jesus Christ was not really born on the 25th of December, and it's a pagan festival, etc. All that is fine. You must remember that you are not the scholar of Christianity. The interpretation of Christianity and their deen should be left to Christian scholars. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to respect the religious symbols of other religions so that they do not insult and humiliate the religious symbols of our faith. Especially in this age when Muslims are so worried about the incessant demonization and insulting of religious symbols of Islam, while we agonize over desecration of the Quran, agonize over insults to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, while we combat this, resist this, oppose this, we should not indulge in the same behavior. We must understand that behavior of human beings is a reflection of their values. Our identity, our ethics, our principles, our values are like the grammar of our behavior. They tell us what is right and what is wrong. So our behavior should be guided by what we believe, not by what others do. If we respond to others in the same way as they deal with us, then what we are doing is we are subordinating our behavior to their values. So it is very important for us that when we talk about other people's religions and other people's religious values, we should not insult them, we should not demonize them. Yes, the celebration of Christmas was initially a pagan festival, but Christians appropriated it. They have a midnight mass, they have an early morning mass, they have all these new Christian theological and ritual things that they have added to Christmas. If you look at how Christmas is celebrated today by Christians, it's not like how pagans used to celebrate the faith. The same is true of Hajj. Hajj was also a pagan festival, a pagan ritual. Pagans used to perform. But if we had an access to a video of how Hajj was performed before Islam and after, it would be so different. The Kaaba was full of idols before that. But Islam appropriated the Hajj. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purified it by making it one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So when we mock another religious community and say, oh, your festival is pagan, the same can be said about us. That is an important thing for you to understand, that mockery of other people's communities, demonization, looking down upon them, is an invitation to the same kind of behavior towards us. And as far as the celebration of Mewled and Nabi is concerned, this is a khutbah, so I'm not going to litigate that here and make arguments. I'm going to share with you only one tradition, and that should be enough for us. The Prophet ﷺ used to always fast on Mondays. And when his companions, some of the Sahaba asked him, Ya Rasulullah, why do you fast on Mondays? And he had a simple answer. I fast on Mondays because that was the day on which I was born. So this is the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ commemorated his own birth. He marked the day he was born by fasting it every week. It is even more profound a celebration than celebrating 1 year with candles and cake. He used the day of his birth as an occasion to repeatedly express his submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to increase his proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, he did celebrate his birthday, he did commemorate his birthday, but in a uniquely Islamic way. And that is exactly what we are doing. So when we commemorate his Mawlid, and in some parts of the world it is commemorated every week. In some parts of the world it's celebrated once a month, in some parts of the world it is celebrated once a year. But what is also interesting in the case of Isa alayhi salam, in Surah Maryam, there is a very interesting ayah. And this ayah is actually a quote. So even though it's a Quranic verse, it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is quoting Isa alayhi salam. And the quote is like this, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وُلِدْتُ وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ وَيَوْمَ أُبْعَثُ حَيًّا. And in this, Isa alayhi salam is saying, and peace and blessings is on me on the day I was born. And peace and blessings are on me, blessings on me on the day I was born, and the day I will die, and the day I will be resurrected. Of course, there are lots of debates about it. But the Islamic understanding is that on the day of judgment, when all of us will be resurrected, that day there is mercy and Allah's blessings on Isa alayhi salam. This is the 33rd ayah of Surah Al-Maryam. But if you look at the 15th ayah of Surah Al-Maryam, the same thing is said about Yahya alayhi salam. That Allah's peace is on him on the day he was born, on the day he dies, and on the day he was raised. Now it's not marking those days, but it's like saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is celebrating their birth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is celebrating their life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is celebrating His reunion with them when He celebrates their resurrection. So the lesson that we can draw from this ayah of the Quran is very simple, that it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to celebrate the birth and the life of the prophets of Allah. It is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to celebrate the birth and the life of the Prophet. So it is important for us, if you can't celebrate, at least be respectful and extend some kind of spiritual harmony to people of other faiths on their holy days. To me, there is no doubt that in this masjid we celebrate the life of Prophet ﷺ, but we also celebrate the life and the legacy of Isa alayhi salam, because this masjid is called Isa ibn Maryam. This is the masjid of Isa ibn Maryam. This masjid is called Isa ibn Maryam. That is a celebration of the life and legacy and the message of Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Now this is an important thing for us to understand. Today we live in a period where there is a lot of tension between Muslims and Christians. It is one of the most frustrating and agonizing things for me that there is so much hostility. There are reports coming out, and the reports suggest that the Sultan of Brunei has banned the public celebration of Christmas in Brunei. I hope the reports are wrong. I hope they are false and fabricated. But if that is the case, then it is very sad. No one has even dared to suggest in the United States today that we should ban the celebration of Eid or fasting in Ramadan. The Chinese did it this year. The Chinese forbid Muslims from fasting in the month of Ramadan in China. And you saw the hue and cry and how and what we thought of the Chinese Republic and the Chinese culture for doing that. So it's very important for us to understand that half the planet is Muslims and Christians. And if there is peace and harmony between Muslims and Christians, then inshallah there will be peace on this planet. Isa alayhi salam is very central to Islam. You know, often people who are not aware of Islam, even sometimes people who teach Islam at universities, etc., talk of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the founder of Islam. But that is not true. Islam is the message of Allah. It is the deen chosen by Allah, which has been revealed over centuries. It starts with Adam and is perfected with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the disclosure of Islamic values. It is a message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as to why He created us and what He expects from us. That message starts with Adam and is completed. So when someone asks you who founded Islam, who started, the founder of Islam is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know about what Islam is from the messengers He sent us. So it starts with Adam and ends. But Isa alayhi salam is the second last prophet of Islam. That is something that we should never forget. That while Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the last prophet of Islam and the end of prophecy itself, he is Khatamun Nabiyyin, which is with the seal of prophecy, Isa ﷺ is the second last prophet of Islam. So there is a lot of affinity. We believe a lot of things that Christians do believe about Isa ﷺ. We believe in his immaculate birth. We believe in all the miracles that he performed. And we also, at least a lot of Muslims who are familiar with the eschatological tradition of Islam, also believe in the return of Isa alayhi salam. So in that sense, both Isa alayhi salam is very central to Islam. In the Quran, there are 114 surahs, and there is only one surah in the Quran which is named after a female figure, and that is Surah Maryam. And that surah is essentially named after the mother of Isa alayhi salam. So it's very important for us to understand that without understanding, without knowing, without appreciating the life of Isa alayhi salam, we will never understand our deen fully. Not only that, we will not understand the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His characteristics, and what He has in store for us and what He expects from us. So it's very important for us to familiarize ourselves with all the prophets and their lives and their histories. What is also interesting is that while in the narrations of the Miraj, the story of the Miraj that many of you are familiar, obviously Prophet ﷺ has met Isa ﷺ twice. Once in Jerusalem where he led the prayers with all the prophets, and the other time when he met him in heaven. It is very interesting that when I was reading the story, the hadith of Miraj, Prophet ﷺ refers to both Moses and Jesus, Isa and Musa as brothers, and refers to Adam and Ibrahim as father. It is very interesting that there are relationships between the prophets. But outside that meeting, the two have spoken of each other, which is very interesting. For example, if you look at the Bible, in the book called John, if you look at chapter 16, verse 13, so it will be 16:13 in John, this is what Jesus says, that when the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into the truth. So he says, but when the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all the truth. He will not speak on His own, He will speak only what He hears, and He'll tell you what is yet to come. So in this chapter, this verse of the Bible, Jesus Christ is talking about the Spirit of truth. The Spirit of truth that will come after Him, who will guide everybody to truth. And what is interesting is that He is saying that this Spirit of truth will not say anything from within Himself. He will basically say what He hears. And remember how the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is through hearing. He listened to it from Jibreel alayhi salam. So that is an important part. But this idea is also corroborated in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Huwa allazi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa deenil haqq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran that it is He who sent His messenger with guidance and the religion of truth. And that is exactly what is there in the Bible. So in many ways, Jesus has foretold the coming of Prophet Muhammad, at least in this verse, which is corroborated in nearly identical terms by the Quran. But Prophet ﷺ has also explicitly spoken of Isa. Obviously, for historical reasons, he could talk. This is what Prophet ﷺ had to say about Isa. He says that of all of humanity, of all human beings that have been created, I am the closest to Isa among the whole of mankind, in this world and in the world after you. This is a very interesting thing. We often forget to focus on the second part of this. In the entire humanity, I am the closest to Isa in this world and after the world. And then he says that all prophets are brothers. All prophets are brothers from different mothers, but they all belong to the same religion. If you are a theologian and a trained academic theologian, this hadith is extremely loaded. It is in Sahih Muslim, 58 So if you look at the hadith, you'll find that the Prophet ﷺ said, we are all brothers from different mothers, and our religion is one. Obviously, most of the prophets except Adam and Jesus are also different fathers, but he doesn't. It is either recognition of the fact that Jesus and Adam didn't have a human father. But it is a very interesting statement that we are all brothers of different mothers. We have the same faith. And then the Prophet ﷺ goes on to say that one more reason why I am closest to Isa is because there is no prophet between us. That there was no prophet between me and Jesus. So it's just why the second last prophet and the last prophet. Oh, this is a fascinating dialogue. Look at the way the Prophet Muhammad is talking about Jesus Christ. Today is the day when we remember these things. Today is the day when we talk about these things. It is important for us to build proximity, especially for those of us who live in Western societies. We live in the embrace of Christianity and Christians. We are like the Muslims who migrated to Abyssinia. To escape the oppression in Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ's companions traveled to Abyssinia and were protected by Negus, the king of Abyssinia, who was Christian. Later Muslims believed that he became Muslim. There are two instances in the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when many delegations came. One was the instance where Christians of Najran came to the Prophet ﷺ. This is an important story we will share somewhere else, but what is interesting for us to know is that according to many accounts in his seerah, and according to many accounts of certain ayahs, tafsirs of Surah Al-Imran, including Tabari, Ibn Kathir, Qurtubi, etc., the story of Najran is such that when Christians came and they had a discussion with Prophet ﷺ about the nature, about the divinity and lack thereof of Isa alayhi salam, and how did Muslims conceive of Isa, etc. During the debates, there was a time for prayer, and the Prophet ﷺ asked Christians to pray in Masjid Nabawi. It is, I request people to move a little forward and create some space. I can see many cars driving in, and today is a holiday, so it's quite possible that lots of people will be coming in, so please come in closer. The second delegation that came to Prophet ﷺ, and this is very important, it came in 628 AD. These were the monks of a Catholic monastery called St. Catherine's in Sinai. So those who are from Egypt will probably know about it. In Sinai there is a very prominent Christian monastery. For many Christians who go on vacations to Egypt, it is like a pilgrimage going to St. Catherine's monastery. It has been there for 1,000+ years. I mean, more than that, because the monks of that monastery came to meet Prophet ﷺ in 628 BC. That monastery is even today the second biggest depository of Christian manuscripts outside the Vatican. The largest collection of Christian manuscripts and knowledge, etc., is in the Vatican in Rome. The second largest is in Egypt, at this monastery called St. Catherine's in Sinai. And when these monks came, they came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asking him for his protection. So the Prophet ﷺ made a promise to these Christians. For those of you who are hearing this for the first time, I invite you to go to my website, ijtihad.org, or just Google my name and St. Catherine's Monastery, and it will pop up. You can see the picture of this document. It is preserved in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. And in that monastery, I'm going to read the entire text of what the Prophet ﷺ promised Christians from St. Catherine's Monastery, and you will be stunned as to the incredible humanity of this document and how profound it is. This is what it says. This is the message from Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a covenant to those who adopt Christianity near and far. This is a very interesting phrase. This is a promise of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to those people who adopt the religion of Christianity near and far. We are with them. This is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are with them, those who are Christians, near and far, in the Middle East and here and there. And then he says, truly I, the servants, the helpers, my followers will defend them because Christians are my citizens and members of my ummah. So he said, I, my servants, my helpers, my followers will defend them because they came seeking protection, they were under threat. So the Prophet ﷺ said, we will defend them because Christians are my citizens, and by Allah, he's swearing by Allah, and by Allah, I hold out against anything that displeases them. If anything and anybody displeases these Christian monks of St. Catherine's Monastery, I will hold against them. There is no compulsion upon them. And he's talking directly about Christians, not the monks of St. Catherine. There is no compulsion upon them. Neither are their judges to be removed from their jobs nor their monks removed from their monasteries. No one is to destroy a house of their religion. No one is to destroy a house of their religion. No one is to damage it or to carry anything from it to the houses of Muslims. You can't go and destroy a church. You cannot go and pilfer from it. You cannot take things away from churches and take it to your home. Should anyone take any of this, the Prophet ﷺ says, if any of them would take any of these 5 Christians from the positions of judges, or destroy their churches, or rob their churches, should anyone take any of these, he would spoil God's covenant and disobey His Prophet. That is very, very explicit. He says if anyone does this, or oppresses Christians, to be very briefly, he is spoiling his covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and disobeying His Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, if you love me, obey my Prophet, and I will love you. And this is what, if you love the Prophet, you will not treat Christians badly because you will not obey your Prophet. Verily, they are my allies. Truly, they are my allies, and I have my secure covenant against all that they hate. This is so far and beyond what the Christians had requested. They have just asked protection for their monastery, for their freedom to practice their religion, and to protect their documents. And the Prophet ﷺ went far ahead, not only to protect the monastery, but to extend a kind of promise to Christians who live in Muslim lands particularly. No one is to force them to travel or to oblige them to fight. You can't force them to join with you in your military. You can't force them to become immigrants or refugees. No one is to force them to travel. The Muslims are to fight for them. If a female Christian is married to a Muslim, it is not to take place without her approval. You can marry Christian women, but you cannot force them to do that. She is not to be prevented from visiting her church to pray. So even if you marry a Christian woman and she wants to pray and wants to go to church, you cannot stop her from doing that. Their churches are to be respected. They are neither to be prevented from repairing them, nor the sacredness of their covenants to be despoiled. No one of the nation, this is to me, when I read this the first time, I read this a few years ago and wrote an article about this, but when I read it, I was just stunned. I just couldn't believe it. I just sat there thinking about the deep political, philosophical, and theological meaning of what Prophet ﷺ had committed. He says, no one of the nation of Muslims, Ummatul Mu'mineen, none of them, no one from my nation is to disobey this covenant till the last day on earth. Well, this is very, very important. What Prophet ﷺ has done is he made a promise to Christians, for those who live under his domain, to protect them, to protect their churches, to protect their religious practices, etc. But he also disenfranchised all Muslims from ever breaking this treaty or denying this treaty. Basically said, no Muslim after me has the authority to come and say this treaty is not valid anymore, because the Prophet ﷺ has said that this is valid till the end of time. Surah Al-Maryam is important. It says a lot of things. If you have time, try when you go home to read it. I think the best way in which you can celebrate both Christmas and Mawlid today is by reading Surah Al-Maryam and its translation. Read it in translation so that you understand. For those of you who have any reservations about Isa alayhi salam, this ayah, which is also a quote of Isa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Maryam, should say it all. There is nothing more to say beyond this ayah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It is ayah number 36. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُوهُ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. Isa alayhi salam is saying, and indeed Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship. Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship Him. This is the straight path. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulih. Dear brothers and sisters, as Muslims we are going through very difficult times. We are hearing reports of how increasingly young Muslims are afraid to manifest their identity publicly, even in this country, supposedly land of the free and the brave. The land of the free and the brave, we don't feel free, we don't feel brave anymore. People are afraid to, they're hiding their identity as Muslims. The most horrible thing that I'm reading these days in social media are sisters who feel afraid to wear their hijab and identify themselves as Muslims when they go out. The whole purpose of wearing hijab is for the purpose of safety. That is why it was commanded to save and protect Muslim women, and today it is becoming a threat to their physical well-being. That is a shame on this country and all of those who talk about the freedom, especially freedom of religion in this country. So it is in this atmosphere it becomes incumbent upon us. It is important that every Muslim engage the system. It is very important that we come forward. But one of the most critical aspects of defending Muslims in this country, in the West, from rising Islamophobia, is to build allies in the Christian and Jewish communities. Nobody is a bigger ally. A few years ago, I was attacked by many pro-Israeli organizations who tried to get me fired with thousands of letters and emails, etc., to the president. It was a tough fight, alhamdulillah, I survived, but only because of support from Christians and Jews at my university. And one Jewish friend of mine said something very interesting. Muqtedar, if you're continuing to do work like this, you will be attacked. But your best friend is to have Jewish friends. Best thing is to have Christian friends. If someone accuses us of being radical or extremists, the people who would be most credible in speaking on our behalf would be our Christian and Jewish friends who have visited our Masjid, who have visited our homes, who have seen us worship, who have interacted with us, who have heard us preach. And they will testify as witnesses to their own communities and say, no, not only are these communities and these Muslims, not only are they not radical, but they are an asset to our society. They are an asset to our community. Their presence brings barakah to this country. The presence of Muslims brings barakah to this country. We bring a godliness. When we fast in the month of Ramadan, the blessings that come upon us come upon this country too. Look at this place. MashaAllah, it's packed. We are here to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a magnet for angels. And where is it located? It is located in this country. We bring angels to this country. Every time we invoke the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every time we do a kind gesture, we bring barakah and blessings and Allah's mercy on this country. We are an asset to this country. We are a kind of a protective shield against evil for this country. That is what it should be. The Prophet ﷺ said, he is not a Muslim from whom his neighbor is afraid. Your neighbor cannot be afraid of you. Your neighbor should be safe because you are his or her neighbor. Our presence should be a guarantee of safety. Our presence should be a guarantee of enlightenment. Our presence should be a guarantee of support for the communities in which we live. Go back and read Surah Al-Imran. I'm running out of time, so I will not go in great detail. But in verses 113 to 115, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, and I will read it very quickly, that among the people of the book, not everybody is the same. Do not assume that every American is like Donald Trump or every Christian is like Mike Khutbah. There's somebody like the Pope who stands out and extends peaceful messages to Islam. He's praying with Muslims. He's extending a message of compassion and love to Muslims. We need to reciprocate that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about such Christians, and this is what He says. They are not all the same among the people of the scripture. Among them is a community that stands reciting the word of Allah at night and prostrates themselves. They are in a state of sujood at night. These are the Christians. They believe in Allah and the last day, and they enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and they rush to do good deeds. They are among the righteous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying they are ulaika min as-salihin, that they are among those who do righteous things. And this is the most important thing. When you read this ayah, it is exactly like the last statement of Prophet Muhammad in his charter to that of Saint Catherine. There's a lot of Muslims who say, no, the Prophet never wrote this document because they want to use violence against Christians. But when I read this ayah in the Quran, I realized that the Prophet ﷺ is merely paraphrasing what is in the Quran. And the Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever good they do never will be removed from them. Whatever good they do, it will never be removed from them. This is what he's saying about Christians. وَمَا يَفْعَلُونَ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلَنْ يُكْفَرُهُ. Nothing will not be taken away from them. And you must remember there are lots of people who have this theories of abrogation in the Quran. This is abrogated, that is abrogated. The abrogation applies only to law. It does not apply to Allah's promise. Wa'ada of Allah is never abrogated. Remember that. This is the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What He promises, He delivers. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will not disregard the good deeds they do, you have to remember that it's exactly the thing that the Prophet ﷺ is motivated. I have one announcement to make. Those who are attending Brother Muhammad Abdullah's wedding tomorrow, there is no childcare facilities available. So if you are coming to the wedding, if you're bringing your children along, then you have to take care of them. I guess if you read between the lines, don't bring children. That's probably what it is saying, but there is no childcare available at Masjid, at ISD tomorrow in the afternoon. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He brings amity between Muslims and Christians and Muslims and the rest of the world. We are not here to confront people, we are here to be role models. We are here to share the blessings and the rahmah that we have received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us all ambassadors of peace. He makes us all ambassadors of good conduct. He makes us all those who stand up for social justice and speak the truth. ربنا آتينا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة وحسنة وقنا عذاب النار إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Make your line straight, please. Don't.
There's more room here.
There's no way. Why you call the barbers?
Speaker.
Allah Akbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim wa siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها
مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد الله كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum. This is just a quick reminder. Today is the last Friday of 2015. So if you have made any pledges or if you had any plans to make any donations in this calendar year, please make sure to bring those pledges by Thursday. Next Friday would be the next calendar year. So please make sure, inshallah, do that. We now have $750,000, alhamdulillah, already raised out of 950. So we are about $200,000 short. Jazakallah khair, sir.
Come on.